Now, we're going through a very interesting financial situation today. It's a time of fear, it's a time of greed, it's a time of panic, it's a time of economic collapse. But surprise, surprise, we have been through this before. There have been financial collapses and panics that have gone on for the last 150 years. And back in 1907, there was a collapse like this, a financial panic. Everybody was running around, the government was collapsing, the stock market was collapsing. And J.P. Morgan brought together several of his biggest friends, financiers, and they got together to work it all out. And J.P. Morgan personally wrote a check for $500 million, which in 1907 was a lot, to basically stabilize the financial markets. And he was asked by the reporters, Mr. Morgan, what's the market going to do? And he said, well, I've given it considerable thought, and he said, I can tell you with great confidence that the market will fluctuate. That the market will fluctuate. Now, it's important to understand this because our lives, our fortunes will fluctuate. The markets will fluctuate. It's the nature of a free economy that it goes from boom to bust, that you have growth and recessions and so on. The market will fluctuate, just as your fortunes in life will fluctuate. So take that into consideration. Now, I was giving a talk on a stage with an economist who was very popular. His book to speak for corporations and organizations. And I asked him, I said, how do you become successful as an economist? Because it's kind of a dry subject. He said, well, it's pretty easy. He said, you keep current with what's going on, and then you always predict growth in America. You always predict growth. He said, because 80% of American economic history has been growth. So if you predict growth, you'll end up being right most of the time. And even if the economy goes sideways or goes down, keep predicting growth with some confidence, and the economy will come back up again. And everybody will say, boy, that guy's a bright guy. So in your life, always predict growth for yourself. And in the economy, always predict growth. Remember, in a dynamic economy where people want to improve their lives and get ahead and have and buy and own more things, people will find a way. Hundreds of thousands of millions of people will find a way, and the economy, just as coming out of the winter, it goes into the spring and summer. We're going through a winter today, it'll go into the summer. And your job is to be prepared to reap an abundant harvest. Now, recessions last about 6 to 16 months. This is the history of recessions for 150 years. The free market readjusts the value and the prices of homes and stocks like a store that has a clearance sale. For example, the prices are adjusted down to clear the stock, and business gets back to normal at the new, more realistic prices. Now, here's a ratio for you. It's called 15 to 1. Now, a stock usually trades at about 15 to 1. If you look at 100 years of stock market averages, there's a straight line that says that a stock will be priced at 15 times its earnings. It's called the price-earnings ratio. So whenever stocks start to get up to 20, 30, 40, 50, during the dot-coms, they would get up to 300 or 400 times non-existent earnings, you know that there's going to be a correction. And there's a rule that says water seeks its own level. If you take a bucket of water and you shake it up and then leave it for a couple of seconds, it seeks its own level, it stabilizes at a certain level. If you take the market and you shake it up and everything, it will come back to its own level. It never changes. Now, here's the deal with homes. A home is worth 15 times its annual rental. If you can rent a home for $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 a year. 15 times $12,000 a year is, what does that work out to? $180,000 or something like that. In other words, it seeks its own level. So when homes go beyond 15 times their annual rental rate, it means that they are off the trend line and that they will seek their own level. So keep those in mind. Now, the subprime mortgage meltdown that we're dealing with today was triggered by government regulations. It is not a failure of the free market. It is interference in the free market. Government regulations called the Community Reinvestment Act, passed by Jimmy Carter in 1977, forced banks to make what are called ninja loans. You've heard of a ninja loan? A ninja loan is no income, no assets, no job, no credit rating, called a ninja loan. And these loans were to spread the wealth. Everybody should have a chance to have their own house, even if they have no money, no credit rating, no job or anything else. And people were even allowed to include their welfare stamps as part of their income in applying for a mortgage where there was no down payment. And what happened was, if they're going to give these loans to people who have no assets or no income, no anything else, why not give these loans to other people? So other people started saying, hey, what about me? And so they said, well, you can have them too. I mean, you've actually got a job. And then the government, which forced the banks to make these loans under the threat of fines and regulations, then said, well, what are we going to do with the loans? Well, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, government-backed entities, they'll buy all these loans. They'll buy all these mortgages. So people say, I can get a high return on a mortgage or a package of mortgages called securitized mortgages, and no risk because the government backs them. And what it is, it set off a feeding frenzy. Instead of investing in a company or a business that has fluctuations and good markets and bad markets, you could buy a package of these loans and you could have a steady return. You could pay your lenders 3 to 5%. You could buy these packages that paid 6 to 7. You could make the spread. In between, you could add on fees. And what happened was it got completely out of control. And finally, everybody in the world was going after these massive billions and tens of billions and hundreds of billions of loans, and they were leveraging. You know, Lehman Brothers, you heard, went broke. Lehman Brothers was leveraged 40 times. That means for every dollar of capital they had $40 loaned out. And what happened when the value started to come down, the leverage collapsed. And the 138-year-old company went bankrupt in a matter of a few weeks. So the current situation is the result. And in retrospect, as they say, hindsight is 20/20. In retrospect, everybody says, wow, we should never have done that. That was crazy. And then, of course, the next thing that happens, and be aware of this, is called the witch hunt. Peter Drucker talked about this. First you have the financial boom, then you have the financial collapse, then you have the witch hunt. And so now we're in the witch hunt stage where people say, who did it? Who's to be blamed? Who's going to be frog marched out of their offices and so on? But this has little to do with you and I. One of the great rules for success is never get upset about something you can't do anything about. Keep your mind focused on what you can. Now, the four most profound words in human history, always true, under all circumstances, are these: this too shall pass. So remember, this too shall pass. This is something that will pass, and don't get excited. Ken Fisher, my friend, who's a billionaire investment expert, has $45 billion under his investment company, asked this question: how do you make money in the stock market? And the answer is you buy when stocks are low and sell when they are high. Pretty simple. However, what is it that most people do? Most people buy when stocks are high and then sell, bail out, go into panic when stocks become low. So don't let that happen to you. It's the same in real estate, especially today with so many foreclosed homes for sale. Remember, buying a foreclosed home, just like buying a stock, is you are buying a piece of that neighborhood. You have to be thoughtful, even if it's at a low price. What you have to do is you have to do your homework, do your research, and make sure that you can rent it out for at least 15 times the amount that you pay for it. If you can't do that, no matter how much it's come down in value, it's not a good investment. And we'll talk about real estate in a couple of minutes. Now, the starting point of dealing with any financial turbulence is this: stay calm. Stay calm. People become very emotional about money, especially about losing money. And so they become very distraught. And some people today are getting into serious physical and mental problems over money. So I learned from a good friend of mine many years ago, whenever you start to get upset about money, just keep saying to yourself, it's only money. It's only money. And this too shall pass. And stay calm. And when you say, this too shall pass, and you stay calm, it enables you to think clearly. It enables you to make better decisions. And another thing about top people is they think long term. They don't think, oh my God, I'm losing all this money or all these problems today. Well, remember, you're going to be around for 10, 20, 50 years. So think long term and realize this too shall pass. The economy will come back. Things will get better. So in keeping calm, number one is get the facts. Get the facts. Not the presumed facts or the assumed facts or the hoped for facts, but be very, very judicious and get the facts. Ask questions. Don't overreact. Find out what's truly going on. Remember, much of what is being said is confused and inaccurate and incomplete. So just be calm and say, where does this information come from? How can we check it? How can we corroborate it? Think on paper. Do an exact analysis of your current situation. If you want to become stable today and wealthy tomorrow, start asking questions. How much do you have today? And take a piece of paper and work out, if you had to sell everything and move away, how much would you actually have today? Second is, how much do you earn? What are your exact earnings after taxes, deductions, expenses, and so on? How much are you bringing in? And how much do you owe? This is very important. A lot of people don't know these questions, by the way. Especially they don't want to face the fact that I owe all this money. The average American today is paying 20% of their income in payments on debt. 20% of their income goes to interest payments, minimum payments, and so on. So how much do you owe? Write it down, make a list. And then how much are your monthly expenses? What does it cost you to live today? And as soon as you do that, you'll find that the average American is living on about 110% of what they earn. after taxes. And no wonder they're living and kiting on credit cards and loans and home equity loans and so on, because there's a law called Stein's Law in economics that says whatever can't go on won't. Let me repeat that. Whatever can't go on won't. You cannot live beyond your income forever. At a certain point, it won't go on. At a certain point, it'll all come to a halt. And the longer it takes to come to a halt, the worse it will be, as we can see from the world financial situation today. And so, what could you do to cut back or to save money immediately? My friend David Bach talks about the latte factor, says if you just stop going to Starbucks, which of course I guess a lot of people have done, that's why they're closing 600 stores, stop going to Starbucks every single day and spending $5, that's $25 a week. If you go twice, that's $50 a week. So you start looking at where you could start to cut back. And then you take that money and you're paying 21 to 28% interest on your credit cards, start paying down your credit cards, and pretty soon your whole financial life starts to change like a great ship in the ocean. And then finally, here's a rule from Jack Welch in Business Week last month. He said, whatever steps you would take under the worst possible circumstances, take them now. He said, change before you have to. Project down the road and say, what if things got worse than they are today? What if my line of credit was cut off? What if my credit card rates went to 28%? What if I lost my job? What would I do to survive? And human beings will always find a way to survive. Whatever you would do, start doing it now. Start making preparations now. You know, we say that denial is not a river in Egypt. And there's an enormous amount of denial out there. People are practicing denial. So make a written financial plan to get your finances under control. This is really important. Don't ignore it. Don't watch television. Sit down and begin to put together a financial plan to get your finances under control and resolve to get out of debt and stay out of debt. We've been through the period and we know that debt is a very stressful thing to have. So make a decision. By gum, I'm going to get out of debt. Don't say, I wish I could and I wish I'll try and so on. No. Make a decision to do it and then make a plan. And then become proactive. Make a plan to become financially independent in the years ahead. Remember the old saying, nothing is as good as it sounds, nothing is as bad as it sounds. So here's the good news. With 5% of the world's population and 5% of the world's landmass, the United States produces 30% of the world's gross national product and contains 50% of the world's wealth. In other words, this is the wealthiest single place in the history of man on earth. The United States has and will continue to create more millionaires, more multimillionaires, more billionaires and multi-billionaires in the last few decades than all the rest of the world put together, and it's done this throughout its history. In 1900, there were 5,000 millionaires in the United States. And by the way, your goal should be at least to become a self-made millionaire. There's 10,000 of them today. So most of them were self-made. By the year 2000, there were 5 million millionaires in the United States, an increase of 1,000 times. Now, even with inflation, that's a big increase in wealth. Do you know that 50% of America's wealth has been created in the last 25 years? If you travel around America and you look at all the beautiful hotels and the airports and the freeways and the sports stadiums, they've all been built in the last 25 years. This is the greatest period of affluence in human history, and of course we're going through a hiccup now, which we will by and by get through. Now, in 2004, the number of millionaires in the U.S. jumped by more than 2 million, an increase of 33%. The largest expansion of personal wealth in the history of man on earth, and the last record just before the subprime collapse was 9.8 million millionaires in the United States, almost all of whom were self-made. And so those people will come back. The market will fluctuate. Now, the United States today has a $13 trillion economy that's growing by approximately $500 billion per year. Even though we are in a slow period, the economy continues to expand in about 90% of areas. I mean, some companies like Apple and Microsoft and Walmart are reporting record profits. The average income in the U.S. is $42,000. It's the highest in the world, and it continues to grow. Now, according to the OECD of Paris, that's the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the United States is the most entrepreneurial country in the world. More than 2 million new businesses are formed each year in the U.S. It's estimated that there are 35 million businesses in the U.S. 35 million businesses. That's about 1 for every 9 people. Now, some of them are small, some people have more than one business, but we have more businesses, and it's easier to start and build a business here than anywhere else in the world, and businesses are the primary source of wealth. So more people are making more money in more different ways than ever before. More people will become financially independent, if not self-made millionaires, in the next few years than in the last 200 years. And your job is to be one of them. So in this teleseminar, you're going to learn some of the most important of all principles of wealth creation. Now, I came from a poor family. I didn't know any of this when I started off. And my family struggled with money all my life. Our favorite song at home was, "We can't afford it, we can't afford it, we can't afford it." It was our family theme song. I didn't graduate from high school. After I left high school, I worked at laboring jobs for several years, washing dishes, stacking lumber, carrying construction materials on building sites, digging wells. I worked on the production line in a factory. I worked on farms and ranches, and I even worked as a galley boy on a freighter in the North Atlantic. In my early 20s, I began asking, why is it that some people are more successful than others? Why is it that some people enjoy all the rewards in life and others have to struggle? You know, somebody told me that the top 20% of people make 80% of the money. So my question was, well, what is it that they do differently from the bottom 80%? I began asking, why is it that some people make so much money and others don't? Everybody starts off at the same starting line, by the way, with pretty much the same intelligence and pretty much the same opportunities and pretty much the same abilities. And then some people surge far, far ahead of the others. And what is the reason for that? And what I find is it's not a matter of talent or ability or intelligence or background. It's really a matter of the things that they do and the things that they know. Perhaps the biggest breakthrough for me was the discovery of the self-concept. I learned that you always perform on the outside based on the way you think about yourself on the inside. Today, I still am amazed at this concept. There's a one-to-one relationship between the way you see yourself on the inside and the way you perform on the outside. As you change your self-concept, your idea of yourself, your external performance and results change as well. Wow! In short, we say, you become what you think about most of the time. So what do self-made millionaires think about? Now, I've worked with Tom Stanley and Bill Danko, the people who wrote The Millionaire Next Door, and these people have interviewed for 25 years thousands and thousands of self-made millionaires to find out what they think about most of the time. And most self-made millionaires seem to have certain qualities in common. And remember, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? What happens is the way you think comes first and what you achieve comes second. So as you change your thinking, you begin to change the direction of your life. Now, how do self-made millionaires think? First of all, they think long-term, as I said before. They make efforts and sacrifices in the present. In other words, they pay off their bills, they get out of debt, they live within their means. They make these sacrifices in order to achieve financial independence 10 and 20 years in the future. There's 75 years of research on this subject. If successful people think long-term, they make decisions in the present to assure that they enjoy a long-term future. Unsuccessful people want to have fun, fun, fun till their daddy takes their T-bird away. They want to spend it all and go out and have a good time and leave a good-looking corpse and all that sort of thing, but not successful people. So the second characteristic of self-made millionaires is they practice frugality, frugality, frugality in their financial lives during their prime earning years so that they can achieve financial independence as early as possible. In other words, they think about achieving financial independence most of the time. They say, look, if I can buy used cars, used furniture, smaller house, we'll do everything possible to save money. I remember once I worked for a man, great experience. He started with nothing, and when he died, he's worth $800 million, almost $1 billion. And I set up and ran a division of his company, and one day I was reporting on the activities, and I showed him where I've been able to save 15 cents on the purchase of a particular component that we used a lot of. 15 cents per component. And he fastened in on that, almost like a laser beam. He said, that's very good, he said. That's very good. If we have several thousand of these a year times 15 cents, that's additional profit. That goes straight to the bottom line, doesn't it? This man was worth $800 million. He ran 200 companies. He had his own private jet that basically sat and waited for him, and he flew it about twice a month. And yet his attitude was saving 15 cents per component was a significant thing. And he was very pleased with me, almost like a father being pleased with a child, that I had actually found a way to save this. And I realized at that time, that's why this man is wealthy. It's because he's so thoughtful about small expenses. He really respects them. So we say that money goes where it is welcome and stays where it is appreciated. It goes where it is welcome and stays where it is appreciated. So self-made millionaires, number 3, is they develop the habit of enjoying the process of saving and accumulating rather than spending and throwing it around. So here's a critical thing to change your self-concept. From now on, say to yourself, I like to save money. I like to be debt-free. I like to have money in the bank. And you keep saying that to yourself, you'll actually create a negative force field of energy. So when you're confronted with an unnecessary expense, you'll say, no, I like to be financially independent. And if I spend my money on that, that will move me away from financial independence. You'll start to develop a mindset of, I like to save money. I like to have money in the bank. And when you start to think like that, you'll start to think like the top people and the wealthiest people in our society, and all self-made millionaires. Now, a key measure of how well you are doing is what is called your survival rate. Now, this is the number of months and years that you could support your current lifestyle if you never worked again. Remember I asked you before, what is your monthly budget? Well, your survival rate is how long you could survive at that rate without having to work. And your goal should be to get your survival rate up to 20 years. Now, you'll probably never stop working, but you want to have the choice. And to have the choice, the experts say you should have 20 years of expenses put aside. What you do is you determine how much you need to live on each month and multiply that number by 240. Now, 240 equals 20 years times 12 months. So let's say you need $5,000 per month to live comfortably without working. You multiply that times 12 to get $60,000 a year. Multiply that times 20 to get $1.2 million. And that becomes what is called your number. That becomes your goal throughout your financial life. And every single time you consider an expenditure, you say, does this move me closer to my goal or does it move me away? And keep thinking like that, and you'll be thinking like the most successful people in our society. Do I have enough money to live for 20 years? Now, most people are underwater. That's all right. That's just where you start. And we'll talk about how you get above water. Now, the key to wealth creation, the secret of wealth creation, has been the same throughout history. It is to add value. It's to add value. Sometimes I'll ask a business audience, how many people here are in sales? How many people here work on straight commission? And very few people raise their hand. And I'll say, the fact is that everyone works on commission. Everyone is rewarded by receiving a % of the value that they create with their work. And people who don't know this are confused about their work. The greater results that you get, the more value that you add, the greater will be your commission. And this is a fact of life. So if you want to increase the amount of income you have, you've got to increase the value that you contribute to your company and to other people. Now, most people start with nothing at the beginning of their careers. Virtually all wealth in America is first generation. It's interesting, when I started off, I used to feel sorry for me. And self-pity, by the way, is a real killer. I used to feel sorry for myself because I didn't have any money. I didn't have any skills. I didn't have any education. And then I found out that most people who are successful start off with none of those things as well. But it's what they do afterwards that counts. Almost all wealth begins with the sale of personal services, with what is called sweat equity. That means instead of having financial equity, you put sweat into it. To achieve financial success, you must be continually seeking ways to add value to whatever it is you are doing. Now, here are the rules for success, and they've always been the same. Number 1 is always put in more than you take out. Most people think, well, if they want me to work harder, they should pay me more. No. First you work harder, and then they will more than be willing to pay you more. Second of all, always do more than you're paid for. Always do more than you're paid for, and you'll always end up being paid more than you're getting today. And finally, the greatest of all success secrets, always go the extra mile. Always be looking for ways to put in far more. Always be looking for ways to go beyond what anybody else in your position would expect you to do, and that will put you on the side of the angels. Remember, there are never any traffic jams on the extra mile. So how do you add value? Number 1 is make a list of everything you do over the course of a week or a month at your job. Make a list of all the things that you do. It'll be 20 or 30 or 40 things. And then number 2, review this list and ask yourself, if I could only do one thing on this list all day long, which one activity would contribute the greatest value to my business or to my career? And almost always it'll pop out. There's always one thing that you do that has a greater financial impact than anything else you do for yourself or your business. Now, number 3, once you've identified the one activity that contributes the most value to you and your business, Ask the question again. If I could only do 2 things all day long, what would be the second item? And whatever it is, put a circle around it. Number 4, once you've determined your top 2 tasks, ask the question again. If I could only do 3 things all day long, what would be the third? Number 5, in almost every case, your 3 key activities contribute 90% or more of all the value you bring to your work. I call this the law of 3. There are 3 things you do that are more important to your success than everything else. Everything else is a support activity, a complementary activity, a useless activity, or a low value, no value activity. It's the big 3 that determine your future. The key to success is for you to spend more and more time on those top 3 tasks and dedicate yourself to getting better and better at each one of them. Now, 80% of self-made millionaires own their own businesses. Fully 90% of businesses started by people with business experience eventually succeed. Fully 90% of businesses started with no business experience ultimately fail, at least in the short term. By the way, the average self-made millionaire has been broke 2 or 3 times, or nearly broke. So if you've been broke or lost a lot of money, don't worry about it, it's not a problem. Henry Ford went broke 3 times before he invented the automobile, became one of the richest men in the world. His going broke teaches you lessons you cannot learn any other way. And so the critical thing is not that you make mistakes or not, the critical thing is you learn from the mistakes. So resolve to start your own business today, even if it's only a sole proprietorship. The fastest way for you to achieve financial success is to start your own business. In fact, it's almost impossible to become successful with a job. The word job stands for J-O-B, which means just over broke. It's impossible for you to become successful, so start a business. Now remember, if you build it, they will come. This is an incredible thing, but when you start your own business, you will create a force field of energy that will attract into your life opportunities to activate this business. Now, how do you start a business? Well, you can go onto the internet, start a business for $25. There's all kinds of sites that will do it. You can start a sole proprietorship just by saying, I am now in business. You can start a business without anybody's permission. If you name it after yourself, you don't even have to register it. The only reason you incorporate or become an S corporation is for tax benefits. But it's amazing how many businesses are started on a kitchen table. A person says, well, let's start a business. Okay, you can be in business today. You can print business cards this afternoon. You can be out buying and selling tomorrow. It's very easy to start a business. America is one of the easiest countries in the world to start a business, and it's designed that way so that people will start more businesses. Remember when Paul Allen and Bill Gates came up with this idea of designing a software program for a new computer company? They were students at Harvard, and they dropped out of Harvard, and they started their business. They called it Microsoft. And the business, of course, now has 120,000 employees, hundreds of billions of dollars of net worth, and so on. But it was 2 guys with an idea, 21 years old, riding cheap seats on a plane, said, let's start a business together. As you know, Bill Gates is the richest, and Paul Allen is one of the almost richest people in the world. Now, when you start a business, the very idea of starting a business creates this force field of energy, and you start to suddenly see ideas and opportunities to put your business into action. It's almost like getting a new car. You get this brand new car, all ready to go. You start to think of places you can drive it. Now, the next point is you can form a sole proprietorship simply by naming it after yourself. As I said, if you want to start an S corporation, you can usually do this on the internet at low cost. The advantage of a sole proprietorship or an S corporation is that everything you invest initially can be deducted against your current income as a legitimate business deduction in the current tax year. But there's more than that, and this is really important. The IRS allows you to deduct as much as $5,000 per year if you own your own business. Expenses that you normally pay for with after-tax dollars can be deducted as business expenses. Let me give you an example. Let's say you start your own business, and that involves talking to people. Well, everywhere you go, there are people. So therefore, wherever you drive, you can deduct your travel. Now, the IRS allows you to deduct 58.5 cents per mile for travel if you're doing it for a legitimate business purpose. And to speak to people is legitimate. Well, the average American drives 12 to 25,000 miles per year. That means that simply by starting your own business, you can deduct between $7,000 and $12,000 per year from your taxes from any other source, just as a traveling cost. And there's a whole bunch of, there's about 50 other ways that you can take deductions when you have your own business. You can deduct part of your house, you can deduct part of your meals, you can deduct your travel on airplanes, you can deduct clothes, you can deduct subscriptions, you can deduct magazines and books, you can deduct so many things, courses that you go to for training. It's phenomenal. And so what happens if you're paying taxes at 30 or 40%, you're saving an enormous amount of money just simply by starting your own business. Also, you become a different person when you start your own business. So see yourself as the president of your own personal services corporation from now on. Someone asks you what you do, you say, I'm the president of my own business. President? Really? I thought you worked for ABC Company. Yes, they're my best clients. But I'm the president of my own personal services corporation, and you are. It is a legal form of business, is a personal services corporation. Now, the key to starting a business is simple. You simply find, create, acquire, or offer a product or service at a price that allows you to make a profit. Now, one of the greatest fears in America that paralyzes people like a deer in the headlights is fear of rejection, combined with fear of failure. But fear of rejection is, what if I represent a product or service and somebody says no? Well, so what? Just talk to somebody else. What if they say no? The rule is, some will, some won't, so what? Next. In other words, start off with any product or service that you think can be of value to people and start to offer it. People say, well, I'm not good at selling. Well, learn how. Can you ride a bicycle? Can you drive a car? You can learn how to sell. You can learn any business skill you need to learn. You can learn any sales skill you need to learn. They're all learnable skills. Do not allow yourself to be held back at a lower level of income simply because you lack a skill that is learnable. Every single person who can do anything well today at one time could not do it at all, and they just learned how. The question is not whether or not you can do it, but where and how do you learn it as quickly as possible. Now, once you learn a business or sales skill, you can do it over and over again. And this is a marvelous thing, is once you've mastered the skill, like riding a bicycle, you can ride it for the rest of your life. Driving a car, typing with a keyboard, cooking a recipe in the kitchen. I mean, once you've mastered the skill, you own the skill. It's just a learnable skill. Now, each time you use a business or money-making skill, you get better and better at it. And as you get better at it, you make fewer mistakes and you get better results. This is called the learning curve, and it's the reason why everybody who is successful is successful. At the beginning, it's very hard. As Goethe said, everything is hard before it's easy. But after you master it, it gets easier and easier and easier. The key qualities required to start and build your own business are courage, the courage to begin, and skill, the skill to operate intelligently. The rule is that you do the things you fear, and the courage comes afterwards. You perform in the skill area where you are weak, and the skill and expertise will come afterwards. Many people say, well, as soon as I feel really confident, then I'll do it. As soon as I feel really good at what I'm doing, then I'll give it a try. No, is you just launch. You face the fear and you do it anyway, and the courage comes afterwards. You say, oh, I'm not very good at this. Well, do it anyway. And you do it, and the skill comes afterwards. They always come after the action, not before. Einstein said, nothing happens until something moves. Nothing happens in your life until you move. Now, the key to success in business is for you to think through what you sell and who you sell it to. So, number one, who is your customer? Think about this very carefully. All market research is aimed at determining this, and if you're correct with who is your customer, you can be successful. If you're incorrect, you need to adjust. Second question is, why does he or she buy your product? Why does he or she buy it from you? Very important to think through. What are the reasons why people will buy your product? Point three is, what specific benefits does your customer seek in buying your product or service? Is it clear that your customer will receive these benefits? Interesting, if you ask the number one reason why people don't buy something, it's because they're not clear how they would be better off if they did. This is the number one reason. And why aren't they clear? It's because the salesperson, the business owner like yourself, didn't make it clear. So fuzzy understanding is the major reason for sales failure. Clarity is the major reason why people buy things. So, number four, ask, how does your product or service improve your customer's life or work? How does it improve their life or work? Because customers only buy improvement, and they must be clear how your product or service will improve their life or work. And here's a question, number five, why doesn't your customer, your ideal customer, buy from you? What holds him or her back? What are the reasons that people give for not buying your product or service, especially if they're qualified? Question six is, who are your competitors? Why does your customer buy from your competitor rather than from you? And here's one of the rules, is always respect your competitors. Never say, oh, the competitor's no good, the product's no good, and so on. Never attack a successful competitor. Instead, try to learn from that competitor. And number 7, one of the most important of all questions, is what is your unique selling proposition? What is your competitive advantage? What is your area of excellence? Your area of superiority? What is it that your product or service offers that makes it better, superior, different from any other product or service in the market? And sometimes, by the way, it is because it is you who are offering it. Sometimes it is the person selling the product that makes the product or service unique. These are the keys to business success. So point 7 is dedicate 80% of your time and effort to selling, to new customer acquisition. I was listening to a successful person talk the other day, and they asked, what's your biggest problem in business? And she said, it's always marketing. Marketing and selling. It's always marketing and selling. I've got the product, I've got the service, I've got the business, but it's always marketing and selling. So what most people do in business is they avoid marketing and selling. They did a survey of business owners recently, and they said, how important are sales to your company? And they said, oh, very important, most important thing of all. And so then they tracked them for a couple of weeks to find out how they used their time. They spent only 11% of their time selling and marketing. The other 89% of their time was busy work. They were in meetings, and they were on telephone calls, and they were doing plans, and they were having discussions, and they were going out for lunch, and so on. Only 11% was spent on the lifeblood of the business, the oxygen to the brain. So spend 80% of your time focused on customer acquisition. Businesses succeed for one reason, high sales. Businesses fail for one reason, low sales. Now, in starting your business, number 8, start small and test each step carefully and grow slowly. Don't make the mistake I did when I started one of my businesses. I took every penny I had. I sold my house, I sold my car, I borrowed money, and I put it into advertising. And I might as well have just burned it all in the parking lot. Because instead of going out and making sales calls and starting off small, I decided to advertise in the newspaper, radio, television, and billboards. And I kept doing that until all my money was gone. And then I picked up my briefcase and I started to make phone calls and went out and sold again. So go slowly. Test each step carefully as you go along. Keep accurate records of all your transactions. Know where your money comes from and know where it goes. Now, 2 more points are, first of all, always focus on net profits, not gross sales volume. Always think in terms of what is your profit margin. How much do you actually earn on a sale after all expenses have been deducted? And one of the most important things to deduct is your hourly rate. If you're a $50,000 a year person, that means your hourly rate is $25. When you calculate your sales profit per product or service, always deduct the number of hours of your own personal time you have to invest to get a true picture of the profit. Always focus on positive cash flow. Positive cash flow, or free cash flow, is the lifeblood of your business. The most important number that your bank looks at, that your landlord looks at, that the grocery store looks at, is free cash flow. How much net positive cash flow do you generate? Because that is the measure of success, and that is the key to success. The first rule for success in business is don't lose money. The second rule is, whenever in doubt, go back to rule number 1. Don't lose money. Be very careful with your money in business. The most important thing you can do in business is to focus all your time and energy on generating sales. Now, let's talk about stock market investing for a second. We're looking at the stock market today. As you know, lots of people have made millions of dollars in the stock market, and in the last few weeks, a lot of people have lost millions and billions of dollars. But here's the rule. Self-made millionaires do not make their money in the stock market. People think, well, ask a self-made millionaire, what do you think about the market? They just roll their eyes at you. They don't invest money in the stock market. They invest money in themselves and in their businesses and in hard assets. 80% of stock market experts with many years of experience are unable to beat the stock market averages over time. Now, this is important to understand, is the most brilliant brains in the market cannot beat the averages. And for an individual to try to beat the averages is a joke. Self-made millionaires store money in the stock market temporarily, usually in safe, stable, value stocks. They find a financial advisor who is conservative and prudent, who practices rule number 1, don't lose money. And if you are going to lose money, do everything possible to lose less than anyone else. And the way you do that is they invest money in unexciting stocks, like Warren Buffett buys Coca-Cola and Geico and furniture stores. He buys things that are solid and stable, that have regular sales in good times and bad. And you should do the same thing. Self-made millionaires spend an average of 6 minutes per day checking on their investments. Non-self-made millionaires are on the computer all day long looking at their stock. Self-made millionaires sometimes don't look at it for weeks or months at a time. I work with some financial advisors who work with wealthy people, and I said, how often do your people check their portfolios? I say once every 6 months. Once every 6 months, yes. They just allow us to carefully allocate their funds for minimum loss, highest possible returns within those safeguards, and they look at them once every 6 months. Warren Buffett wrote recently, when he was sitting on $27 billion in assets, that there is nothing worth buying in the stock market today. Now recently, Warren has made a couple of bets, but generally speaking, he's sitting on tens of billions of dollars and not buying anything because he just doesn't think there's anything out there worth buying. So trading stocks, remember, does not add value. People think that you can make money by trading stocks. No, there's no increase in value. You're not making a contribution to your world. The only way that you can acquire and achieve great wealth is by adding value in some way. Always think is, what can I do to add value? One of the reasons, by the way, that we have all these problems today is so many people thought that they could make money by not adding any value. They could buy and flip a house or a condominium. They could get in and out of something. They could make money quick and easy without doing any work, without contributing any value. And it's all over now. Arthur Laffer, who did the Laffer curve, and one of the most prominent economists in the U.S., has just written a book called The End of Prosperity. Basically, what he's written about is the end of easy money. Is to, from now on, for us to make a lot of money, we're going to have to work hard. So if you're going to invest in the stock market, the best of all investments is what is called an index fund. Now these funds track the stock market. They outperform almost all mutual funds, and they have the lowest cost of acquisition and sales. An index fund just tracks the market, and it's very hard to beat an index fund. The index fund outperform some of the finest and best managed funds by the finest financial brains in the world. So let's talk about real estate investing now. Real estate investing has got real possibilities if you want to become wealthy, especially in turbulent times. The ownership of income-producing real estate is a major source of wealth in America. Now, it's not always a source of wealth because you have to follow a whole bunch of regulations and you have to be careful like any other business. But you'll find that some of the wealthiest people in America own lots of land. And we're talking about income-producing real estate that produces an income greater than the cost of carrying the property. And then over time, the property increases in value, the rents and returns increase in value, and people become wealthy. Give you an interesting point, by the way. I've invested in real estate, and I know several other people who are wealthy in real estate. And they say it took 5 to 10 years for a good, solid, well-chosen piece of property to finally become a real moneymaker. It takes a while. You have to be patient. I was talking to a multimillionaire the other day. He said, best property he ever had is one he's owned 25 years. It makes more money today than it's ever made in all of its history. It's a shopping center property. He said when he bought it, he was about break even. But over time, you pay down the mortgage, you increase the rents, you take care of the expenses, and it starts to earn more and more and more. So the rule with real estate investing is get rich slow. Don't ever look for a way to get rich quickly in real estate. Now, it's possible to buy real estate with no money down, but you require what is called a motivated buyer. Remember that expression, a motivated buyer. This is someone who's anxious to sell and who has no real idea what their property is worth. Sometimes real estate experts on the subject of no money down investing will tell you that you have to look at 100 properties before you can find 10 on which you can make an offer. Of the 10, you may be able to purchase one property. It therefore requires several weeks and even months of hard work to find a home that you can buy for no money down. But even if you can buy a home with no money down, and they don't tell you this, you still have to pay the bank fees, the mortgage fees, points to get both of them, the closing fees, the legal fees, the title fees, and a variety of other hidden expenses. Now, once you own a house for no money down, you have to pay all the upfront cash costs of upgrading, renovating, landscaping, repairs, and even advertising to find a tenant. If you don't find a tenant immediately, you must pay the monthly operating and mortgage costs out of your own pocket until you do. And by the way, all of these additional expenses have to be paid in cash. There's no credit. You can't add them onto the mortgage. You can't do anything. So you must realize that there's enormous, thousands of dollars involved in buying a home with no money down. Now, one of the best methods to start in real estate is called buy 'em, fix 'em. Many people have made millions of dollars this way. This consists of finding a home that is run down, buying the home at a below market price, moving in or fixing up the home on your evenings and weekends, and then either renting it out or selling it and making a profit. Buy 'em, fix 'em. The first time you buy and fix a house will take several months, even a year. The second time you do this, it will take less time. After 2 or 3 years of experience, you can be buying, fixing up, repairing, and reselling 4 to 6 homes per year, making a profit each time at little or no risk. Now, I was giving a seminar for a Fortune 500 company, and a husband and wife who both work for this company, they make about $50,000 to $75,000 each, came up and told me their story. They said they got into this buy them, fix them idea. They went to a seminar, they got some books, and they went out and took them 6 months to find a house that fitted their parameters. It took about 2 or 3 months to fix up the house, to repair it, to paint it, to put in new carpets, clean up the landscaping, and so on. And then they resold the house, and they made about $50,000. Then they started to do it the second time. It took them about 4 months to find the second house, 2 months to find the third house, 1 month to find the fourth house, and so on. And what happened was pretty soon they found themselves fixing a house up every 2 to 3 months and making $30,000 to $50,000 per house and rolling that money forward into another house or houses. They said, we're now making about $200,000 to $250,000 a year net with all the depreciation that's involved. We'll be millionaires in less than 5 years. And if we keep on doing this, we'll be multimillionaires by the time we retire. And they didn't even quit their day jobs. And they didn't even really interfere with their lifestyle. And the more often they did it, the more familiar they became with bankers and with builders and contractors and construction people and landscapers. So they knew the right people to use. And they just developed this little sub-business, and that couple will become millionaires and multimillionaires in the fullness of time. Now, you add value to real estate by making it more attractive so that you can rent the property at a higher price, thereby increasing its market value. The key to success in real estate is for you to think long-term. Never buy a piece of property with the idea that you're going to flip it quickly and make a quick profit. By the way, almost everybody who got into that is now bankrupt today. Remember, they were buying 5 or 10 houses, sight unseen, 5 or 10 condos, sight unseen. They're all bankrupt, and they're all set back, and it may take them 10 years to recover from this buy and flip 'em sort of attitude. Don't do that. Always think about owning a piece of property for 5 or 10 years before you buy it in the first place. Now, the key to success in real estate is simple. Learn every detail about the property. Learn about the city. Learn about the neighborhood. Learn about the local economy. Learn about the local schools, shopping centers, and roads. Become intimately familiar with the property before you buy it, because it is an enormous investment. Imagine somebody was going to sell you their business. If you're going to buy a business from someone, you would want to look at every single detail of the business. Well, it can cost you more to buy a home than it could cost you to buy a business, and you want to know every single detail about the home. And always look for what I call the fatal flaw, the hidden flaw. Whatever somebody tells you, they're always leaving something out. They're always leaving something out. So, how do you become financially independent? The simplest way for you to become financially independent is to develop the habit of saving 10 to 20% of your income throughout your lifetime. In our instant gratification society, people don't like that. And today we have a savings rate of almost zero. Everybody is spending everything they make and a little bit more besides. So if you're already starting off in debt, and most people are, and you can't save 10 or 20% of your income, begin by saving 1% of your income and living on the other 99%. Now, that's not hard to do. Let's say you make $3,000 a month. Then you start to save $1 a day, $30 a month. Now, you can do that. You can find a way to save $1 a day. If all you do is you put all your change into a jar when you come home in the evening and just put that money away, $1 a day will start to change the direction of your life, like changing the direction of a great ocean liner 1 degree at a time. Once you become comfortable living on 99% of your income, increase your savings rate to 2% of your income, then 3%, 5%, and eventually 10%. Now, human beings are creatures of habit. We become accustomed to our income. If we begin to live on 99%, we begin to adjust down, like gearing down a car. We begin to adjust down to that, and we become comfortable fairly quickly. Each time you gear down and live on a smaller percentage of your income, you quickly adapt to it. You adjust to it, and it becomes comfortable. Then you can go to the next percentage. Within a year or so, you will be living quite comfortably on 80% to 90% of your income and saving and investing the balance. If you do this throughout your working lifetime, you'll become a millionaire. Do you know that a person who saves $100 a month and puts it into a good mutual fund or index fund and does that from age 20 to age 65 will be a millionaire? They'll be worth more than $1 million saving $100 a month. How many people, if I said, I'll guarantee to give you $1 million back if you'll just save $100 a month, how many people would say no? Well, you can guarantee yourself, and you can be your own guarantee by saving $100 a month. If you're in your 30s, you have to save $220 a month. If you're in your 40s, you have to save $450 a month. But whatever it is, you've got to figure it out. What is your number, the number you want to hit, so you can retire, and how much do you have to save every month and let it grow by compound interest? Einstein also said compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe. And so when you start to use compound interest, the difference is absolutely extraordinary in your life. Now, self-made millionaires develop the habit of living within their means. The key to financial success is contained in 5 words. Spend less than you earn. Spend less than you earn and save and invest the balance. If you can discipline yourself to do that, you can change your life. As W. Clement Stone once said, if you cannot save money, the seeds of greatness are not in you. The very most successful companies are the companies that build reserves during the growth times so that they are ready when business goes soft. The very smartest people are people who develop reserves throughout their lives so that they have money put aside when things go soft. Now here's 5 don'ts for financial success. Number 1 is don't seek easy money or get led astray by get-rich-quick schemes and ideas. You know the old saying, when a man with money meets a man with experience, the man with experience is going to end up with the money, and the man with the money is going to end up with the experience. So don't believe people who tell you you can make money quickly and easily, because it's simply not true. Number 2, don't look for rewards without working or for shortcuts to financial success. Don't expect them, don't look for them. If somebody offers them to you, run away. Number 3, don't expect someone else to do it for you. You are responsible. Number 4 is don't trust to luck or hope for miracles. They never occur in financial matters. And number 5, don't expect to be successful the first time. You'll make hundreds of little mistakes on the way to developing the wisdom and experience you need to get and keep the financial fortune you desire. Expect to make lots and lots of mistakes on the way through. Just be sure that you learn from them. Now, here's 5 do's for financial success. Number 1, do study and understand every aspect of any investment you ever make for the rest of your life. If you don't understand it, don't put your money into it. Number 2, continually look for ways to add and increase value in some way in every situation. Number 3, do be prepared to get rich slowly. All serious money is long-term, patient money. And number 4, do be frugal with your money at all times. Be careful and thoughtful with how you invest it and how you spend it. Continually watch your money like a hawk. And number 5, do resolve today to get your savings rate up to 10 to 20% of your income for the rest of your life. And then invest the money carefully. Don't lose money. Remember, all money-making skills are learnable. You can learn anything you need to learn to achieve any goal you can set for yourself. Everyone who is wealthy today started off poor. By studying what other financially successful people have done in the past, and by doing the same things over and over, you will eventually get the same results. You will eventually achieve the financial independence you desire.
Hello, this is BrianTracy again, and I've got something really special that I want to share with you. It's something that's got me so excited, and everybody in my family and everybody in my company is excited about it as well. As you know, I started off poor. I didn't graduate from high school, and I worked at laboring jobs for several years and finally got into sales. And then I began asking the question, why is it that some people are more successful than others? And especially, why are some people more successful in sales than others? And I went and asked people, and they told me. And I began to do what other successful people were doing, and my sales went up. And when I got into management, I asked people, how do you be a good manager? How do you recruit people, train people, manage people, motivate people? And they told me, and my sales went up. And then eventually I got into real estate development, importation and distribution, manufacturing, real estate sales, investments, a lot of other things. But in every case, I would just say, why are some people more successful than others? And I went and found out. Now, I began to read book after book and listen to audio programs by the hour and attend courses and seminars. And eventually took more than 4,000 hours of my MBA program to try to find this question. And in the course of this, I came across the work by a man who spent 54 years studying success. He'd read 6,000 books, and he had written 4 books, each with 250 success principles, 1,000 in all. And I asked him, I said, what's the most important principle you've ever found of these 1,000 success principles? And he smiled at me. He was about 89 at the time, and he said, Brian, he said, the most important success principle of all is learn from the experts. He said, you'll never live long enough to learn it all by yourself. Of course, by this time, I knew that, and he merely confirmed it. And today, it's learning from the experts. It's learning from the people who've gone ahead of us that enables you to be successful. No one would expect to learn how to be a good diesel mechanic or chiropractor or brain surgeon or anything without learning from the experts. And so what has happened is we now have an opportunity and a possibility to enable you and everybody that you know to learn from the finest experts in the world the most essential skills that you have to achieve your most important goals, but especially your financial goals. So it's based on sort of 5 principles. The first principle is the law of continuous learning. This law says that to earn more, you must learn more. In other words, it says that wherever you are today, you cannot earn any more money than you're earning today with your existing level of knowledge and skill. Your existing level of knowledge and skill sets the lid on how much you can earn. The only way you can earn more in the 21st century is by learning and practicing new knowledge and new skills. Now, you've heard it said, and this changed my life as a young man, that the top 20% of people earn 80% of the money. And I heard that, and I said, geez, I'd like to be in the top 20%. But then this meant that the bottom 80% earn 20% of the money. They have to crawl around on the floor and get the crumbs that fall off from the table of the top 20%. And I looked into this and said, why is this true? Why does this disparity exist in every society? And the answer is simply, the top people know more about what they're doing than the bottom people. They all start off the same. Like a great marathon, you all start off at the same starting line, but that some people get way ahead in life, and other people hang back in the pack, and other people don't get to the finish line till everyone's gone home. The difference is that the top people simply know more than others. Now, recent research talks about this whole thing about the income gap that we have in our society. And what they're finding overwhelmingly is that it's not an income gap, it's a skills gap. That today our society, the knowledge age, the 21st century, requires that if you want to be successful, you've got to have certain skills. And if you have those skills, you move to the front of the line. You move up to the top 20%. And if you don't, you just get moved back. And so what they found is that the bottom 80% of people increase their income at about 1% per year over inflation. They have what is called a job, which stands for J-O-B, which means just over broke, because they never get ahead and they never get out of debt. But at the same time, they found that people in the top 20% are increasing their income at an average of 11% per year. People in the top 10% are increasing their income at 25% a year. People in the top 5%, 35, 40% a year. So where do you want to be? So the biggest problem in our economy today is this skills gap, and nobody but yourself can make it up. So people who continually upgrade their skills move to the top of their fields. So here's the second principle. Our new business, iLearning Global, has the finest high-definition widescreen television technology in the world for teaching people. You know there's 22 times the number of nerves from the eye to the brain as from the ear to the brain. What that means is that what you see and hear, you retain 22 times more. You're much more likely to remember it and to use it than if you just read it or hear it. Although reading and listening are very good ways of learning. So Today, with iLearning Global technology, you can go online, you can go to your computer anytime, anywhere, 24/7, pull up the finest teaching by the finest teachers, trainers, authors, and experts in the world and learn any subject you want. Do you want to learn how to get more appointments, close more sales, negotiate a bank loan? Do you want to learn how to start a business, write better advertising, write better copy, how to market? Would you like to learn how to negotiate more effectively, how to get along better with others, set more goals, make better decisions, manage your time? All those skills are there. So iLearning Global, for the first time in technical history, enables you to mainline the best learning in the world. Now today, if you say to a person, I need some information, someone will say, why don't you go and Google it? Within 2 to 3 years, people are going to say, I need to learn a new skill. They're going to say, why don't you iLearn it? Because all the critical skills that you need are on iLearning. Now here's the important point, is we're focusing in iLearning Global with 3 letters, make more money, MMM. We want to show you how you can get paid more and promoted faster, make more sales, grow your business, increase your profitability. So we're using the 80-20 rule, and 80% of what we teach is practical, business-oriented, money-oriented skills. And 20% is personal success, motivation, relationships, getting along better with your family, understanding different personalities, and so on. And when you get involved with iLearning Global, you get involved with almost like in a partnership with some of the best speakers, trainers, motivators, people in the world today. So the third principle is what we call online community building. Is you will build an online community, first of all, of a couple of your friends, and then more and more, that will eventually be hundreds and thousands of people all over the country and all over the world, even in other languages. So the question is, first of all, do you believe in the importance of continuous learning? If you do, then do you know 5 other people who believe in the importance of continuous learning? Then if you do, you just simply encourage them to become members of iLearning Global so they can learn 24/7 any subjects they want, and then you help them to enroll 5 more people who enroll 5 more people down 7 levels. We call this the power of 5. The power of 5 strategy says that if you enroll 5 people who enroll 5 people down 7 levels, first of all, your own membership to iLearning Global is paid for completely. Second of all, you start to earn hundreds at the 3rd level, and then thousands at the 4th level, and then multiples of thousands at the 5th level. And it's all on the site, by the way. It explains this. But you can actually earn an enormous amount of money by helping people to be more successful. Now, the wonderful thing is you don't have to do any selling. All you have to do is direct people to iLearning Global, and I and other people will come on and explain it in detail how the business works with lessons and letters and emails, and everything is all done for you online. Not only that, we will have online training sessions where you can go, and almost every night of the week you can phone in and you can hear some of the most successful network marketing specialists in the world teach you how to build your business easily from your home with very little effort. Now, what's involved? Well, you're not going to believe this. I couldn't believe it. It costs you $29.95 to have your own internet business. This gives you your own website with your own name. So when you say to a person, you say, are you interested? They say, yes. Well, here, go to my website and take a look. And that becomes what is called your portal, which enables you to go straight into the system. Then it costs $79.95 per month to operate your entire business. This not only pays for your bookkeeping and your accounting and your staff and all of your upgrades and technology and research and development. It enables you to market to other people and build a fantastic business with virtually no risk on your part. So our goal is to create 1 million millionaires within 10 years. And we want you to be one of them. We want to create 1 million entrepreneurial business owner millionaires, but also sales millionaires, private practice millionaires, and we want you to be financially successful as well. Now, here's the 4th part. It's called the tax benefit part. Is when you start your own business with iLearning Global, assuming you don't have your own business now, you can start to save thousands of dollars a year based on IRS regulations that have been set up over the years to encourage the startup of new business. And we have Sandy Botkin, who is one of the top tax authorities in America today, worked 8 years for the IRS auditing small businesses and then came to the other side. And what Sandy does online teaches you in beautiful seminars exactly how you can take advantage of every single provision that the IRS has set up to save yourself thousands of dollars a year in taxes. Let me give you a simple example. If you are traveling on business with the expectation of doing business that will make a profit, then you can deduct the cost of that. You can deduct all your traveling, half of your meals. But here's the great thing. The IRS now allows you to deduct 58.5 cents per mile that you travel. The average American drives 12,000 to 25,000 miles per year. At today's gas prices, that means by just deducting your gasoline costs, you can save yourself $7,000 to $12,000 a year, just as a member of iLearning Global running your own business. And there's about 49 other tax provisions like that that you can use. So in reality, when you become a member of iLearning Global, it pays for itself over and over again by the very fact that you now have your own business. Now, the final point, and this is most important, it has to do with lifestyle, is when you build your own iLearning Global business, you create passive income that grows and grows throughout your life. Because once you have enrolled 5 people, who enroll 5 people each, who enroll 5 people, it's like a Christmas tree, and it starts to grow downward, and it eventually becomes thousands and thousands of people, all of whom pay you a small commission every month, but the amount is extraordinary over time. You can literally earn thousands of dollars a month in residual commissions just by encouraging a few people who encourage a few people, and we teach everybody how to do this. You can have more time for your family, for your personal life, for your traveling, whatever else you want to do. With iLearning Global, you can achieve a high personal income that can actually replace your day job and achieve financial independence for life. Wouldn't it be incredible to be financially independent, to be debt-free, to have all the money you wanted, and it just flows in every single month, passive? And there are many people who are achieving this in this type of business, and you can be one of them as well. Now, what is your risk factor? Oh my, what's the downside? The downside is $29.95 to join and $79.95 per month. But here's the other thing, is we've designed this so there's no risk. So when you sign up, if you don't like it, you can quit at any time. You can say, I don't like it anymore. There's no upfront fees, there's no commitments, there's no obligations. We say it's like you join a physical fitness club that has every single piece of equipment in the world. Well, this is joining a fiscal or a financial fitness club that has every single technique and method that you want, but it's a monthly membership. So at any given time, if you're not happy, you can leave. But here's the wonderful thing is nobody leaves because of all the other people that are developing in the downlines below you. So if you like what I've talked to you about, by all means, contact us at BrianTracy.com/ILG and look at all the information we have and make a decision for yourself. You owe it to yourself, if you believe in continuous learning, to upgrade your skills on a regular basis. And you owe it to yourself, if you want to be financially independent, to check this out. That's all we ask you to do is check it out, and you'll have the same enthusiasm that I have and everybody else has. Thanks for listening. You have a great day.